I'm at the Austin airport. I'm heading to New York. I'm doing the Today Show tomorrow, which should be fun. On the drive from my house, I got a little note from someone that said the review from the London Times came in. It's not that it wasn't good, it's just the guy really missed what the book was about, what I was trying to do with it, and really what Stoicism is. As I saw this, I was thinking of this line from the Kipling poem where he says, "Can you bear to have your words twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools?" Maybe it'll hurt the book sales, maybe it won't. Maybe people will think think something or mean something that I don't. I don't control that. I do control whether I let it ruin my mood. And the real thing I'm excited about is that the economy lot at the Austin airport, they sort of rotate it. And anyways, the cheapest possible spot was as close as it could be to the airport. So I'm mostly just excited about that. It is 5:29 a.m. I've got a 7 a.m. call time for the Today Show. I'm gonna try to get a run in before I get ready to go down there. So it's a trade-off between sleep and doing this thing that I need to regulate my emotions, get in the right headspace, get awake, and I'm gonna go for a run in Central Park. Probably no place more fitting to go on a run this morning than through the literary walk in New York City. And as it happens, all three of those women, Sojourner Truth, Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth and Candy Stanton, they're all in the book, in part 2 of the Justice book. The idea of this sort of parade of activists and fighters who are always pushing for the next thing, the next bit of rights. I totally forgot that was there. But I thought that was pretty perfect. And then the other thing I was thinking about this morning is, as I was getting up and didn't really want to get up, Marcus Aurelius says, you know, people who love what they do wear themselves down doing it. And he says that when you wake up in the morning and it's warmer under the covers, you have to say to yourself, is this what I was put here to do? To huddle under the warm blankets? No, you have work to do. You were put here to do something as a human being. Go do that thing. So I've done this book launch thing a number of times now, and there's something inherently selfish about it. You're like, I hope the press comes in, I hope the attention comes in, I hope the sales come in, I hope people like it. One of the things that struck me as I was writing the book, there's this chapter, and I talk about this guy named Rabbi Harold Kushner, and every day before he would write, he would start by making a small donation. He wanted to start the day with an offering instead of an ask. And so for the launch of the book, I'm doing something similar. I could have written a promo email to Daily Stoic, which goes out to over 1 million people all over the world. I could have done one more thing. Hey, please buy this book. You know, even though everything in the world is crazy, all this stuff's happening, please, please, please do something for me. And instead, what I decided to do is I was gonna make a donation. One of the things I was really struck by with the book is, like, you know, we think about all these huge problems in the world and we don't think enough about the little bit of difference that we could make. In Camus' The Fall, he talks about this man being plagued by the sense that there was this person who'd fallen into the canals in Amsterdam and he could have saved him. It's shocking the small amount of money it takes to save a person's life in today's world. So what I'm gonna do, and I was talking to my wife about it last night, is I'm going to make a donation. There's a charity called the Malaria Consortium, and you can do it through GiveWell. It was actually sponsored the Daily Stoic podcast before. They give medicine and nets, and you can, for roughly $3,000, which is a lot of money, but for $3,000 you can save a human life in Nigeria. So I'm gonna donate enough money to save 10 people. That's how I wanna start today. I wanna know that however everything goes, if the reviews are bad, if the sales are bad, if the press hit gets canceled on my way there, I did something, like, I had a great day. and the world is better because of something I did that was in my control, right? We could think about all the things that are outside of our control and focus on those, or we could just try to focus on good we can do in our control. So that's how I'm starting today.
Other celebs, and world-class athletes.
His books have sold more than 10 million copies in more than 40 languages. We love the title of his newest book. It's called Right Thing, Right Now. Good values, good character, good deeds. Ryan, good morning. We should point out that Carson is a Uber fan.
I'm a practicing believer of Stoicism, which, by the way, you know, the Jerry Seinfeld interview is bringing shining a big light on this idea of Stoicism. And I think before we get to promoting this book, we start talking about good virtues and how to be a great person. You should seed it in the context of explaining to Today's Show viewers a little bit about Stoicism in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an ancient philosophy that's built around this idea that we don't control what happens, we control how we respond to what happens. And so the Stoics say that big, small, good, bad, we always have this opportunity to practice one of the virtues: courage, self-discipline, justice, and wisdom.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking about the climate right now, and I feel like everywhere you look, people are not practicing that, what you're describing.
Yes.
So how do you get that back in people's psyche? Where has that gone?
Yeah, the problem is, like, when we hear this word justice, we think about what's going wrong in the world. We think really big picture instead of thinking about what we control. That's what Stoicism is about. What's up to you, and focusing there. And so I think if we stop thinking of justice as something like we get from a judge or a jury from the legal system, but as something we do, we see justice as a verb, not a noun. That's how we do. We want to be the change we want to see in the world, because that's something we actually affect.
One thing I love about Stoicism is this idea that, like, when I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder and things like that, years ago, when I realized, and I think the average human forgets, that we control how we frame something. Mm-hmm. When life throws us a curveball, we don't have to just accept it for what it is. We can make a choice in the moment to how we sort of frame it, and that's part of what you talk about in a lot of your books.
Well, there's something incredible about the Emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, 2,000 years ago, writing in this little journal that survives to us as Meditations, talking about his anxiety and what he's worried about. And then also telling himself, hey, look, you got to be a good person. You got to work for other people. You got to be honest. You got to be decent. So this is a really timeless thing. We're all we know what we should be. And then the struggle is to get there in our day-to-day behavior.
Don't forget to get this book. It's a good one. It's called The Right Thing, Right Now. You can find it on our website, today.com/book.
Good to see you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, Sid, over to you.
Just ahead, guys. That was so.
Thank you. No, you guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Nice work,
Carson was right.
Thank you for helping me.
Of course.
So I just did the Today Show. I had 4 minutes on live television. But going into that, there was, I think, 3 calls with the producer. The publicist had multiple calls. There was multiple emails. They sort of break down every part of it that you're going to do. But they tell you, hey, they're known for going off script, so also be ready. There's an Eisenhower line that's like, plans are everything, but plans are worthless. And that's basically what happened, because the first question, Carson, who actually follows the Daily Stoic, just goes in a totally different direction. So from the jump, all the prep goes immediately out the window, and we just had to improvise it. And so when we think of Stoicism as this idea for resiliency, it's the idea that you can think on your feet, you can bounce back, that you have the confidence that, hey, doesn't matter what direction I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna figure it out. And that's what we did. I think it went pretty well. We'll see how it does. My phone's been blowing up, which has been really cool. But that's how it goes. You prepare for something, you plan for something, you think it's gonna go one way, and then it goes a totally different way. You just have to be able to respond. That's what Stoicism is. That was something I said in the interview. I said, Stoicism is the idea that we don't control what happens, but we control how we respond to what happens. I don't know what the host is gonna say. I don't know if they're gonna be hostile or generous. In this case, Carson was doing me a huge favor, and he was really looking out for me. He just didn't like what was in the script, and he was like, I wanna set this up to resonate with the audience better, but I had to roll with that. If Again, I think I did a good job, but I'll let you be the judge. It is 5:48 a.m. Tuesday, the day of the book launch, which is very exciting. And I'm not thinking about that at all. I'm gonna go for a run with my friend Casey. So I met Casey 10 years ago, in 2014. I just published The Obstacles Away. We were both speaking at a talk that Google was putting on in a castle in England. And so we were the only ones staying in the castle, my wife, him, and a couple other people. And now every time I'm in New York, or when he lived in LA, anytime we're in the same place, when he comes to Texas, we go for a run, and he is very fast.
My friend Ryan is in town this morning from Texas. I'm going to meet him to run. So that was 10.5 miles at a 7:24 pace. Ryan is a fast runner. Morning. Good morning, Ryan Holiday. Let's go.
All right, so 10-year anniversary of Obstacle and knowing Casey, and we did a little more than 10 miles. I will say we have clearly aged and slowed down a little bit since then. Not my fastest time. It was a good way to start the day, and now I'm gonna go do a little writing and not think about the Amazon rank of the book, not think about the reviews, not think about whether the orders are shipping. All that's outside of my control at this point, but I can decide whether I get to work on the next project. What I try to do is I always try to be in the middle of the next book, because there's this big gap. Like the Right Thing right now has been done for months, although there've been little things here or there. I don't have anything to do on it now, and I haven't for several months. So I started the next book in the series, the Wisdom book. I want to spend as much time as I can today, when I'm not running around to different press things, you know, working on that project. So I have forward motion. And by the way, that's something that I control. I don't control all the other things, but I do control whether I make a positive contribution to the next book. So I got to do a phone interview with CNN, and I'm walking in the park. I'm going to do it while I'm walking. I like to do most of my phone calls while I'm walking, and New York's such an amazing place to walk, and the weather's awesome, so that's a nice gift. And then I'm having lunch with my sister, who is uptown finishing her cancer treatments, and then I'm doing Chris Cuomo's podcast, and then I've got a couple hours to kill before the book signing tonight at Barnes & Noble in Union Square. 80 times in Meditations, he talks about it more than just about anything. He says, you know, that he actually says the whole purpose of life is good character and acts for the common good. And I think that's, to me, that's a wonderful definition of justice that more people need to understand, because we tend to think of justice as this abstract or this enormous thing, that, you know, justice is the civil rights movement. Justice is, you know, criminal justice reform. And it's not these things, but it's also, you know, the standards to which you hold yourself. It's how you treat people. It's how you run your business. how you keep your word, and then it's the actions that you can take as the individual to do these things where we have, I think, our greatest obligation. So sometimes you get lucky. I guess this is twice now that I've gotten lucky on this launch. The guy that was interviewing me was like a fan. He'd read Stillness is the Key and actually a bunch of the other books, and he really liked the new one. So his questions, like, he actually knew about the books and he wanted people to read them. So again, he was really like doing me a solid. And so as you see, like, negative reviews, it's easy to be like, negative reviews are people that say no. You can focus on what you're not getting. And what you miss is all the ways that you are getting breaks and hitting green lights. And I do try to focus on that. The Stoics say, everything has two handles. What are you going to look at? Are you going to look at all the breaks you're getting, or are you going to look at the things you're not getting? And if you focus on the breaks you're getting, you're going to be grateful. If you're focused on what you're not getting, you're going to be resentful.
Good evening. So I'm the guy not photographed up here. My name is Will Guidera. I wrote another book called Unreasonable Hospitality, and I'm super excited to spend some time with him talking about this amazing new book, which I've already had a chance to read. I guarantee you, when you read this, it's going to challenge the way you make decisions, because you will be deciding against your own immediate self-interest if you're inspired as much as I was by what it compels you to want to become. I mean that really sincerely. I feel like we have this tendency to always think that the past was better than the present. And when I'm reading this book, and I like, it's kind of fun when you're reading a book and the next week you're having a conversation with the author. But, okay, justice, you define it like a million different ways. Accountability, honesty, responsibility, decency, loyalty. And it feels to me, and I'm not sure whether I'm doing that thing, where the past is better than the present, but that it's incredibly timely. Is it really bad right now, or where
I mean, I don't know if you could go back historically and find an era where you're like, what was wonderful about that time? We treated everyone great. It's never been true. We've always been selfish. We've always discriminated. We've always abused. We've always ignored. But then there's also been people inside those moments that sort of resisted that temptation or that urge. And so when you go back historically, you find wonderful examples, or say counter examples. But I think for the most part, this has been a timeless struggle. It's why the Stoics were laying this out as a virtue worth striving for, 2,000 years ago. But yeah, I do think you could argue some of the trends of the moment accelerate these things. And I would say that our lack of consensus about history, or our inability to pick models and celebrate them and hold them up, makes it hard for us to have sort of a common ideal that we're aspiring towards, right? Like, I would say that one of the big voids in the world today is those stories or exemplars of what we want what we want to be and then what we want our children to be. We're really good at tearing them down and poking holes in them and pointing out the contradictions in them. But if you don't replace it with anything, you're left with this vacuum, and in that vacuum, people who have no moral compass whatsoever do what they want, and then also people are uncertain and they're not called to and inspired to be what they're capable of being, I think.
Ryan Holiday.
Thank you all very much. All right, so today started at 5-something a.m. and it's ending at 10-something p.m. It was awesome, it was good, but I'm like a zombie. I'm fried, my brain is not working. And I gotta find a way to wind down, sleep, and get up and do it again tomorrow because I've got call time at the exact same time. And then I'm gonna see my friend Charlemagne at the Breakfast Club. All right, it is 5:50 a.m. once again, and we are heading to Squawk Box on CNBC. NASDAQ. Hello, for Ryan, yeah. How are you this morning?
Our next guest is part philosopher, part self-help podcaster. He's the host of The Daily Stoic, which applies the ancient Greek philosophy of Stoicism to modern life. Guests on his show have included Malcolm Gladwell, Matthew McConaughey, and a lot of leaders in the CEO world, including the CEO of Shopify, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and so many others. Anyway, here he is. He's at our table. Ryan Holiday, best-selling author of multiple books on Stoicism. His new book, Right Thing, Right Now, is out this week. Here it is. And this is book number 16.
Yes.
That's a lot of books you've been
probably
writing over the years. Are you a Stoic?
I try to be.
Can we define Stoicism for the audience?
My working definition is Stoic doesn't control what happens, but they focus on how they respond to what happens.
What's the difference between where you started in this process and where you are right now?
I think like a lot of young men, I was interested at first at what Stoicism could do for me, how it could make me more productive, more resilient, more in control of myself. But the virtue of justice, which is such an essential part of Stoicism, is like what Stoicism's asking of you, the standards you hold yourself to as a person, a citizen, a human being, a spouse, a parent. And so like we can't strip the ethical component out of Stoicism. And if we think of the Stoics as being these powerful, important people, the check that ultimately held them from doing whatever they wanted was these sort of ethics or these standards that they inherited. All right, so I got 80 minutes between CNBC and Breakfast Club, so I'm gonna try to get a short run in, and then it's like one block that way, and I'm gonna do that. We are heading to the Breakfast Club to do Right Thing Right Now, and then my publisher is like right here, and I have to drop off the 10-year anniversary manuscript of Obstacle. It's crazy to me that 10 years ago, almost exactly, this book was being released, my first book on Stoicism, and now I'm editing the 10-year anniversary in the green room of the Breakfast Club. I got to drop this off on my publisher, who, when I wrote it the first time, was way downtown on Varick Street, and now is all the way up here near the park because Penguin merged with Random House. But now I'm just tightening up. This is the second pass, which I guess now is like my 5th or 6th pass because I've done it so many times. But it's not free to break your word, because the next time that person's not going to trust someone else. And so we all think about it as like, what's good for me? But what we're doing is we're stealing from the public trust, from our ability to collaborate and count on each other, because everyone's saying, you know, your word isn't worth anything. And collectively, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it's not.
I pride myself on being honest and truthful at all times. I love chapter 3 in the book, Tell the Truth, but I think sometimes when we say, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a buffer to this whammy I'm about to lay on you.
I'm actually going to be a dick, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm still pretty old school about it. Not only do I write the books with physical note cards, having read physical books, but then I do all my notes. I have the publisher print them, like print me out a bound manuscript. I want to see what it's going to look like in the size that it's going to be, and then I do all my notes. This is the second pass, but. So I realized something crazy. I realized that I sent you the first draft of this 11 years ago on a plane flying across Australia, and then here's the big one. It doesn't feel like it is 10 years. That's insane. Am I in here? Where? Trust me on lines up there? That's incredible. And that one. Oh, they're not behind glass?
Yeah, try to keep your hands to yourself.
How do I get all 6
Oh, there's
feet up here?
obstacle there.
Oh, where? Oh. Okay, that's insane.
Yeah.
So then we'll have to replace it with a new one. Do you think that's a first edition?
It might be.
How do you decide which one's going?
You can find out.
Like, do you ever demote off?
I don't think we ever take anyone away, but we can. That's cool.
Do you have to sell a certain number of copies?
No, it's not. It's all
promoted. So the day started with a 5-something pickup, and now it is 11:30, and we are walking back from the 11th hour show. And that concludes my media obligations. A book launch is this thing. Look how big that dog is. That's a huge dog. It's all leading up to the launch, but then you have to sprint through and well past the finish line. And so now I'm gonna fly home in the morning and keep writing the next book and finish the job on this one. All right, we're heading home.
Ryan, congratulations.
Well, what's the word?
You're number one.
New York Times?
Number one New York Times advice ahead of all other books.
No way.
Doesn't get any better than that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. This is number 2, right? This is the second time?
Yes, I think that's correct.
Oh,
It
man.
was.
There's something about hitting a target as a byproduct of doing what you were trying to do as opposed to aiming at said thing. Like, this is nice, but not the main goal. The main goal was to do the book and to get it to people, and then this is a byproduct.
You know, you did brilliantly with the book, connecting with the audience with the book. The media tour was unbelievable. And look at the net result. You vaulted Justice to number 1 on the New York Times list.
To me, that's the craziest thing, because I would have guessed that this would be the hardest sell of the whole series, but here we are.
This doesn't get old, my friend.
No. All right, well, Steve, thank you for everything that you've done and for making it happen. And as I was saying when we had dinner, I don't think either of us would have guessed this 11 years ago when we met. No, way more than that. Sorry, 13 years ago.
It's been a marvelous journey, and we're just getting started. So.
All right, thanks. Talk soon. Have a good night.
Okay, man.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Hello?
Hey, guess what?
What?
Sammy, number 1.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was very nice of James Clear to vacate the number 1 spot for me. I'm going to send him a nice note.
After 20 million copies sold to be yielded.
But anyways, thank you for everything. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna work on the wisdom book for a little bit, and then I'm gonna come home.
All right. Congrats.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye bye. All right. My tradition, which I've learned the hard way, is that you celebrate the noun getting the accomplishment or the achievement. You celebrate the noun by doing the verb, which is what I'm gonna do now, and that is work on the next book.